Hi, and welcome again to Bluebeam Digital Takeoff Part 2 with John Porter from JPC. Uh, like I said in Part 1, this is a tool set that I created in Bluebeam to allow you to do structural steel takeoffs there. So just to get back to where we left off, last week in part one, we're going to do a few more beams that we're going to be adding to our markup list down below here. And after that, we'll be talking about each columns in that markup list, which data it's going to give you there. So let's do some 227s again. So 227, we're just going to click on it on each end. And like I said last week, these are all repeats. So you go in your last recent tools and you're going to copy and add it to, you're going to snap on your beams, which is going to transfer all of the data for that beam into your markup list down below there. So let's change it. Let's do some, let's say 360 at 33. So 360 at 33. So here we have one. So we're going to click on each end. 360 at 33. So we try to keep with the same beam, and that prevents us from going back and forth between your tool and your main screen for your drawing there. So let's take off this big nice one here. That's 610 at 113. So we'll go down to 610, 113. And again, you'll see that it's a different color line. So I'll explain later what's the reason for the different color coding. So you'll understand how I'm proceeding or how I'm taking off the steel there. So I guess we have enough tools or takeoffs in our markup list there. And let's look at this markup list and see what it tells us there. So if I start from my left, I have the actual creation date for those beams there. So if I look and click on them, it's going to reverse the order or flip it the way that you want to see your takeoff, how it was done there. So here, this would be the first one. So I want to see my last one, which was this one here. So you're able to manipulate or filter your information in each column there. The second column is it gives you which page your assembly is coming from, which page you did your takeoff from. So again, if I would have multiple pages, I could sort them out by just clicking on the upper part of your column, and it's going to bring all of your takeoff beams from that same page into a category there. So this is a nice feature to know how much shield you would have per if you need to break out your sequences, divisions, whatever you want to call them there. Let's go to our third column. So again, in our third column, that filters by type and size all of your beams that we're taking off there. So again, if you want to play with them, just click on the top of your column, and that's going to reverse the order again. Label is pretty much the same thing as a subject. So again, if you click on it, it's going to reverse everything. Comments, we're capturing some of the dimensions from that we took off there. So again, click on it, and it's going to create some grouping of different measurements that you have. Our count, this is mostly for our shear studs and cambers. So the count for the normal assemblies, these are a count of 1 that you have there. So that's basically how it's showing it to you there. Measurement, so I have those extra columns just to give you some additional information when you export to an Excel spreadsheet there. Here's an interesting one. The color coding that I'm using, like I said in part 1, I'll explain to you. This is based on, if I go back to, give me a second, I'll show you guys where this is coming from. So to establish my different categories of beam sizes, I've used the price per unit contract guideline, which is proposed by CISC there. This would be the same thing for AISC, for the American version or imperial version there. So if I start looking into it, you'll see the first category is for columns and beams, rolled sections. So whatever line is in brown, that would be a category which is from 0 to 15 kgs per meter. If I look at a different category, which is in yellow, it's going to be the 16 to 30 kgs per meter category. Then we have our 31 to 60 in blue. We have our 61 to 90 kgs per meter in green. We have our 91s to 155 kgs per meter. And we have whatever is above, higher than 155, which would be in red. So going back to our material takeoff markup list, and so you see by double clicking, I'm just gonna click on the creation date, which is gonna mix up the colors in the markup list. So by here, it's hard to figure out like what's part of what category, but if I go at the top of my color column, it's going to take every grouping and put them together. So right now my blue category, which is, let me go back to, these are my 31 kgs to 60 kgs category. So for the erectors, this is good information to have, because probably even for fabrication, probably your fabrication per ton is going to be different for each of those categories there. So this is where, if I look into it, just give me a second there. Oh, I just need to switch to my structural drawings. So if I look my 3160, my category, and I go down to my fab hours per ton, this category I've allowed 13.64 man hours per ton to fabricate it. We all agree that this value is going to change, and it's totally different from shop to shop there based on the type of equipment that you could have there. So if I look at another category, which is our yellow, which is our 0 to 30, I'm using 18.18 man hours a ton there. So again, it could be different from shop to shop there. So based on the length that we have in our measurement column, is going to determine the weight for that type and size of beam, and it's going to give you your total fab hours to fabricate each of those pieces there. After that, let's go back to our columns. So this column is going to give us the weight per assembly. For our cambers, it's going to bring us and tell us what's the camber size that we have in our takeoff. So again, if we need to change it, we just need to double click on it. If you want to change the size of your camber, because that's directly going to affect your fabrication time there, you're able to change it on the fly there. Same thing for your finishes there. Say I would like to take this beam and make it galvanized right on the fly. I just need to double click on the column, and here we are. We have some galvanized beams there. So again, galvanized, say I want to make this one here. Let's say, okay, it's shop prime, or right now I have my system set up with no paint. So there's 3 different finishes that I'm using right now in in this tool set there. After that, you have your grades. Again, you're able to click on it. It's going to filter out all your 350Ws together. So again, and on the fly, if there's a change in the grade type, you're able to do it. Double click on the line where you want to change your grade, pick the grade that you want, and you're all set. Next column is our square meters per meter. So again, it's going to give you a total for how many square feet that you have to shop prime or galvanize. Well, galvanize, that's going to be based on per pounds there. So we have our total in this column. So our fab hours again per ton. This is the column that we have, which gives us how many man hours per ton that we're using. We have our total of man hours to fabricate right here. So again, that's adding up. And the number at the top, it gives you a summary of all the hours for that category of steel there. So to do our 0 to 30 kgs per meter, for those assemblies right here, it's going to take us about 21.28 hours to fabricate these pieces there. Again, some of you out there might like to use hours per assembly, which is no problem, or whichever way you would like to set it up where we're able to modify that for you guys there. So we have our welded studs per assembly. So say we need to add some studs on some beams. Again, we just need to go in there, which is a different way from the way we took it off there. So when we took it off in part number 1, we used the count feature in Bluebeam to get a count of our shear studs there. So here it's even more specific. If you really want to see which beams are going to have shear studs on them there. So this is going to calculate the welded studs total that we have on our beams. So if we go back to last week takeoff, we're going to see that last week we took off 144 studs, which were 19 by 140, and there was 12 locations of 12 studs per location, so that's where our total is coming from there. So to weld those, it should take about 23 hours. So it calculates the hours right there. So, and even for the erectors, it's going to give you how many hours it should take. That would be from the time that you're unloading your steel on a trailer to the time that you bolt it, torque it. It's going to give you the allowance that you have or the time that you need to do a specific beam there. And again, this column is adjustable. If you see the erection hours per ton, this is based on categories, and this is going to differ from erector to erector. Some of you guys might be using different equipment, which gives you an advantage over somebody else to go faster on your erection. So probably your hours per ton or hours per piece are going to be different there. So this is all information that we're picking up when we're taking off the assemblies on our drawings there. What's nice about this, and I always said that you could use this data to import it into an Excel spreadsheet or FabTrol or Stromus, whatever. The only thing you need to do is click on the export feature, get the CSV report out. Right now I have everything set up, so this is why I'm going faster. So right now it's exporting to the Excel spreadsheet, and I'm just going to give you a quick overlook of how the information is presented. And also this is all customizable there. So here's my window for all the takeoff data that we're picking up. I'm just going to adjust my column width to 12. All right, So here you have your type and size, your length, you got your kgs, but depending on which software you're using, you don't need all of this data to do an import there. So it's either you copy and paste this data into your import sheet for whatever software you're using. So like you just saw, it takes just a few seconds there to get all of your data in order and have it ready to manipulate it, do what you want with it there. It's either putting some values to it, importing it. So as you can see, it's a very quick method to get your information there. So I'm just going to go back to Bluebeam. So I'm just going to close this. So for this week, part 2, it gives you a quick overview of what we're capable to do there. And just a quick note, to purchase my tool set that you need for your Division 5 structural steel, the value for all the tool sets to be able to do what you're doing, what you saw in part 1 and part 2 there, it's about $1,500, which is pretty cheap because I have a lot of time spent on it. So for $1,500, you could get up and running with Bluebeam digital takeoff there. Just a heads up for next week, what we'll be looking at is how to take off columns and braces using the same tool sets. So in the meantime, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to email me or call me and let me know what you think. So from now till then, have a good weekend, and we'll be talking again in part number 3. Thank you. Bye-bye.